Alright, this is Ken Stratton, and I'm going to demonstrate repairing a unit. This is one of the units that we make most commonly. Right here, this particular unit came in with a complaint that it doesn't power up. So initially, I've taken it out of the enclosure. I'll press the main power button, and as you can see up here, the voltage is 12.23 volts, which is the correct voltage, but obviously nothing is happening. The displays aren't turning on. They should be red. They should be a red similar to this unit, if you can see it back here. So, I've worked extensively with these units. The first thing to check is obviously the main power circuit, which resides in the bottom board here. So I'm going to turn this off. And the main power circuit is fuse. There are actually two different fuses in this, but the power for the main unit is fused with this small green fuse right here. That green component is called a pico fuse. It is rated at 3 amps. And that would be the first thing to check. So I have an ohm meter here. I'm going to take the probes and touch them together, and as you can see, the ohm meter registers that there's a short. When I touch the two leads together, the fuse should also register as a short. So I touch one side here, and the meter is indicating that it is still an open circuit. This means that the fuse is bad. So I'm going to go ahead and change that, and we'll test it again. Okay. So here's the unit, here's the fuse. It's a through-hole component, so I'm going to have to access it from this side. This is a tool to help hold it. I'll slide it in here. So the two pins for the fuse, a little bit difficult to see, but they're here and also here. They're both small. This one does have quite a bit thicker traces, so it is going to take a little more heat to remove it. I'm going to go ahead and I have my soldering iron here. It is adjustable. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat up a little bit. I'm going to use, to remove it, what's called the solder pull-it tool. First step is to clean the iron. One thing that is useful is to add a little bit of solder to the part you're actually trying to desolder. It helps, the flux helps to heat it up quicker. And once it becomes liquid, pull it out with the solder pulling tool and heat this up. Oops, that didn't quite go. One more time. There we go. So now this has been desoldered. We'll go ahead and remove this component. What I'm doing is heating up the rest of it so that I don't risk pulling out anything else, that the solder is liquid, and with only two pins I was able to simply push it out. I'll go grab the new part, new 3 amp fuse, and install it and show you how to do that. Okay, so here's the new fuse. It's already been, the legs have already been bent. We run them through a machine that actually bends all of these automatically. As you can see, the fuse here, it has a silk pattern for where it goes. There's no polarity with the fuse. So I'm going to go ahead and set it in there like this. Now, a lot of times, if the leads are long enough, which unfortunately these really aren't, the leads are here. They're pretty small because the machine also cuts the leads. It's mainly for a flow solder machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tack solder the fuse in place, and that way I can flip it over and continue to solder the rest of it. So let's slide it up here, if you can see the fuse down here. So I'm going to go ahead and tack solder this leg that we can see here, and the same process is used. You have to heat up the pad as well as the pin and touch a slight amount of solder into that junction. As you heat them up, now this is soldered on one leg and it will stay in place as it is. I'm going to go ahead and take it and flip it over. Now the two pins that I need to solder are here and here. This one's already soldered, so I don't want to heat that one up again or else the part's obviously going to fall out. So we'll do the side that hasn't been soldered first. And place the iron in there and push the solder into it. And make sure that it heats up enough. This is a thicker trace. And first we're going to allow that to cool before we solder the other leg. And the other leg has already been soldered, and it is sufficient, but I do like to touch it up just slightly to make sure that it is a good solder joint. Clean the iron off. The final thing to do would be to clip the extra leads. They're not incredibly high, but we do use shears to clip them off. Now we'll plug the unit back in and see if it turns on.
Back ones too.
Okay, so last step is we take some rubbing alcohol and a toothbrush, and we clean off, if you can see around the solder joint, there's excess from the gas, there's flux, there's residue there. I'm going to clean that off. So just scrub it off, blow in a little, allow it to dry, and you can watch it dry. Take the top board and the bottom board, we stick them together through this connector, and we'll put it back in. Back here is the meter that shows how much voltage is going into the unit. We'll turn on the main power. Bring it a little bit closer so you can see. We'll turn on the main power switch. And sure enough, as you can see, the unit has powered up, and it does go through different menus. Now the unit is running. The resolution is a little hard to see with this, but as you can see, the unit is turning on. And now the unit is complete. It's fixed. It's ready to be reassembled and put back into the unit and tested, sent back out to the customer. Thank you for watching. This is Kevin Stratton demonstrating how to repair a unit.